Welcome to Lesson 2 in Unit 10, Saving the Sand Dunes. In this lesson, students will work together to answer the question, why are the dunes changing? In this lesson, students will continue to research the problem. They use hands-on investigations to discover why the sand dunes are changing. Students figure out that the sand dunes are changing because of wind and water, and that the stronger wind or water causes larger changes. Students make connections to the storyline by continuing to research the problem that they are trying to solve. There are several opportunities for ELA cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. For specific standard connections, visit the Unit 10 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 4 to 6 days to complete. You'll begin the Engage portion by reminding students of the engineering design cycle and their progress toward solving the problem of the changing dunes. You'll tell students that the next step in the process is to gather more information about the problem in order to help solve it. To gather that information, you'll share the Sleeping Bear Dunes then and now photos in the curriculum slides and ask students to observe what has changed. You'll allow students to turn and talk, then share a few answers with the whole class. You'll then project the changing dunes graphic and ask what students think might be causing the dunes to change. You'll support students to come up with ideas about wind and water changing the dunes and encourage them to think about their own experiences with sand. You'll revisit the driving question board and add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about what is causing the dunes to change, why the dunes are changing, and how the dunes are changing. For the Explore portion, you'll tell students that scientists and engineers test things to answer questions about the natural world and solve problems. During these tests, they gather evidence. You can post and discuss the evidence vocabulary card. You'll then set up the Wind and Water Station investigations. There is a teacher tutorial showing the setup, and the detailed procedure for this activity can be found in the teacher guide. Students will model the effects of waves and wind on the sand. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion to share their findings from the wind and water investigations. Use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, why do the sand dunes change? The goal of this class discussion is to analyze student data and identify how wind and water can cause changes to the beach. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 2 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that wind and water are causing the Sleeping Bear Dunes to change. During the discussion, you can post the force, erosion, and weathering vocabulary cards. For the Elaborate portion, you'll have students complete the Earth Changes student journal page. They can review their earlier drawings of the Sleeping Bear Dunes from the journal pages in Lesson 1. You'll have them use evidence from their investigations and the class discussion to update earlier explanations and drawings to explain how wind and water can change the Sleeping Bear Dunes. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students work in pairs to review each other's models and give feedback. You'll have them use the peer feedback table tent to identify one thing they like, one question they have, and one suggestion they have about their partner's explanation or drawing. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about why the sand dunes are changing, and what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have used evidence from investigations to construct an explanation for how wind and water change the Earth's surface. In Lesson 3, students will continue investigating changes to the Earth's surface. They learn that changes to the sand dunes can happen quickly or slowly. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.